you know, I agree with you that I don't necessarily think we're getting stupider or dumber in this country or in the world in general because of the internet, but we're definitely getting weirder in our perceptions of actual world events. And I think every time something like mass shootings, for instance, like New Zealand, every time one of these horrific tragedies takes place, you see more and more division. I watch people fight over it on Twitter, people blaming left-wing people blaming right-wing people trying to find some reason. And this one is particularly disturbing because it appears that at least one of the guys, I don't know their names, I don't know if they've even released, have they withheld the names of these guys who have done this?
I haven't seen the names so far, I don't know.
One of them seems like he's trolling. Like he thanked PewDiePie and said that Candace Owens was his biggest inspiration, and he's doing that. I guess we could agree some people are saying that OK sign is a white power sign. I know we had this dispute with Tim Pool where he was saying, I guess it is a game that some people do play. What is it called, the game? The look?
I don't know. There's an official name.
There's some game where if you look under the table, you see someone doing that, they're allowed to punch you or something, something stupid like that.
I saw the Stephen Miller photo where he's doing up his blazer and supposedly doing the white power sign.
But
I thought, really, is that really evidence enough?
No. There was a woman in court, too, that was doing that, where she had her hand like this, and people were saying that.
But that's what people are arguing about rather than.
Right, which is ridiculous. Like, evidence. But this guy in custody is clearly making that symbol. Yeah. Clearly. So, like, what is he? You know, he's like some troll murderer, some troll mass murderer. I mean, he's both. He's both fucking with everybody and a cold-blooded, ruthless killer of people that were praying.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's not lose sight of that. You have to have some serious hatred to walk into a mosque and gun down 42 people and 7 people in the other one. You know, that's...
Yeah, it's horrific. Across the board, top to bottom. It's horrific. But it's also one of those things where, like, we see so many of these now that we're starting to get numb. Whether it's a Jewish synagogue, whether it's a Muslim temple, whether it's a gay club, whatever it is, it's like you see so many of these mass murders now that it's just, whether it's a school or a movie theater, it's like, fuck, man. It's just, it all, like you were talking about, when you're filming the news, you're there, you're watching the bullets fly by, you hear them fly by your head, and you are just watching it through the lens. We are many, 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 many levels removed from that. And we're sitting here trying to figure out what to do. And we're not there. We're not where the bullets, and the people that are there, where the bullets take place, they try to give you a description of it. And even they barely can comprehend what happened. But
also, as you said, we're going straight to the argument about who to blame, and who did he follow, and rather than I mean, if people spent as much time as they spend arguing on Twitter, reading, I know people say fake news. There are people who you can trust. If they write a 10,000 word piece on Syria for the New Yorker, for example, like that they're being fact checked, and
maybe it would be better if there was a website where we curated all of like the bulletproof. That's a terrible way to describe it, but rock solid investigative journalisms that are 100% ethical, that you could completely rely on for an accurate assessment of what's happening, because it is difficult for people, and when people they rely on biased websites, which many of them do, whether it's biased to the left or biased to the right, things get even more muddy, and there's so many of them. It's so easy to reinforce your confirmation bias with whatever, whether it's left wing or right wing. Just find that website, read the comments. These are my people. They think like me.
And especially now. I mean, it used to be if you were conservative leaning, you'd read the Wall Street Journal. If you were liberal leading, New York Times. Now, no matter how far off the scale you are, you can find a pretty professional looking website that will write a story backing up your prejudice. And people aren't looking at a story thinking, okay, I want to find out what happened here.
Yeah.
They're thinking, I know what my gut feeling tells me. I need to find not even a story, a headline that justifies my gut feeling about this. And that's as far as it seems to go.
Now, you as a journalist, as a person who risks their life to bring this information to people, how does this make you feel? I mean, is this part of the reason why you needed to do that MDMA therapy? Not just the fact that you were, you really are without better use of without a better term, shell shocked, right? I mean, you're there, you're there.
Yeah.
There's something that comes out of that that's got to be very, very difficult to recover from and overcome.
Yeah.
But there's also the fact that you're going over there and bringing this shit back, and people don't seem to give a fuck.
And that used to be what kept you going. Is you thought like some of my work is going to make some kind of difference, and when that starts to fade and you start to think that's not going to happen,
I'm sure your work makes a lot of difference to the people that pay attention to it. That I think we're overwhelmed by bullshit. I think it's everywhere. And when I mean bullshit, I mean like nonsense.
Yeah.
You know, Kim Kardashian's psoriasis is in the front page of the CNN or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not nonsense to her, but you know what I mean? Like there's stuff that people are concentrating on. It's like, Jesus Christ.
I don't mean, one of our docs on HBO, if it got 4 million views, I think that would be considered very good viewing figures.
Yeah,
4 million giant. In a country of 360 million people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's very difficult to get people to watch documentaries on real world events. You get them to watch documentaries on like a sex cult from Oregon or something like that, like Wild Wild Country. That probably got 10 million.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, I don't know, man. You know, this New Zealand thing really had me rattled. And you know what is also strange? People like seem to demand a response. They demand people in the public eye to talk about it. And, you know, say thoughts and prayers or something like that.
But as soon as you say thoughts and prayers, they'll say,
they'll
fuck your thoughts and prayers. Yeah. We've had that for years and nothing's actually happened.
Yeah, it's very strange. But, I don't know if they're concerned that you're not horrified. They want to make sure you are. Like, who the fuck isn't? Like, how could you not be? I don't understand this. Or is it just they're just frustrated, confused themselves, so just lashing out at any target they can find or anyone they can find?
And also, you know, I mean, I know the footage is available of you know, this guy's head cam as he shot everybody, but footage like that has been widely available for a long time now.
Yeah.
And I think that's had a massive numbing effect. I mean, you know, the picture of the Syrian refugee washing up on the beach, you know, it felt like that was going to have an effect. It felt like that was the picture that was really going to change things. No, I'm not sure it did.
It might have for a couple days.
Yeah.
And then more news. Yeah.
I mean, not, you know, just to be not completely pessimistic, when you're doing stuff for Vice and HBO, you do get young people reaching out to you and saying, oh, I had no idea. Yes. I want to be a photographer or a doctor, or maybe that's an effect that's going to be felt down the road. Yeah. I don't know. It feels like there is a generation of people growing up thinking, I'm not going to play by the normal set of rules. Like, I am going to actually try and do something about this.
I really do believe you do have an effect. I think Vice certainly has an effect. I think a lot of this has an effect. I think it's very difficult to feel that effect if you're not experiencing it personally. I mean, to just look out onto the landscape and say, how much of an effect is this having on people? It's hard. Like, where are you getting the feedback from? How are you gauging whether or not this is changing people's perceptions?
Well, sometimes the feedback you do get is on Twitter, where you'll get a few lunatics will say, oh, you faked this footage. So then you think, wow, I'm really having no impact. But I think that's an argument for just not reading the comments.
Well, there's a little bit of that. And then, you know, I had Renee DiResta on recently, and she's done a lot of work covering all these various Russian troll farms and how they essentially organize conflict online. And, you know, they set up these things where you have like a pro-Texas movement, and they set them up across the street from a pro-Muslim movement, and they do it on purpose. And then they have these pro-LGBT movement things online that they organize to attack certain people and certain groups, to diminish certain aspects, and to divide parts of the Democratic Party. It's crazy.
Yeah.
When you hear about shit like that on top of all this, you're like, well, okay, just the actual news itself is so difficult to disseminate. It's so difficult to figure out what should I pay attention to, what's real. And then you have this kind of shit happening on top of that. You're like, well, fuck, you know?